It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is 9/11/25. It's the 24th anniversary of 9/11. And this is the C block, the Charlie block, which means we start at right around 7:40. A little bit late this morning, 7:42. Actually just turned over 7:43. And the reason I give that out is because of the fact we do this show live. It's on the air right now. We're speaking live 8 o'clock Central Time, Central Daylight Savings Time right now, soon to be Central Standard Time. And by the way, John, let's talk about that for a minute, but let me finish this. If you don't listen live, you can listen in the future. That's why I give the date. bjshow.co, that's traditional website, it's a podcast website. And if you go to bjshow.us, that is the traditional video website version of it. And you can also go to westplextalk.com and also find all that stuff as well, too. John, what was I just going to say? I just lost my train of thought there.
It had something to do with the dates or listening to the podcast version. It's kind of frustrating, Brad, the last couple days on Apple Podcasts, when we put the show notes on Red Circle, they don't show up on Apple Podcasts.
Why is that?
I don't have any idea. And yesterday I thought it might have just been a one-day glitch. But so for the last 2 days on Apple Podcasts, if you were to go to Red Circle, you would see the full show title and the description. And if you go to Apple Podcasts, it just shows the low effort date, incorrect episode number, and no details. So it's kind of frustrating because I know that I used to point people all the time to go to Apple Podcasts. And now when they go there, there's something in translation between Red Circle and Apple Podcasts where it's not showing up.
Well, it's probably my frustration with Apple is that, like, for example, why did they keep changing things? I have an iPhone. I'm not bragging about it. I'm normally not an Apple guy. Everything else is IBM stuff around here. But when they put in a new update, I don't know if you've gone through this before, the thing that drives me nuts now is that on my phone app, the button to push for the speakerphone used to be on the right. Now it's on the left. And the other thing was, I don't know if they did this to make it easier. I said they've made it harder. In the photo gallery, they have totally effed that up because it used to be to the point where you could very easily navigate down to photos and you go to albums and stuff like that. But not more importantly, you could go and you can search because I have thousands of photos, thousands of videos on my phone.
With text in it? Are you saying you can't search now, Brad?
I can't find the search bar anymore. I mean, maybe you can. I can't. It used to be right at the bottom when you go to photos. When you go in, here I go right now. When you go in the Photos app, it used to be on the...
do you know, on my version, Brad, I have, excuse me, I have the latest version of iOS. At the top, there's a blue circle that has a magnifier glass, and that's the search button.
But it gives you, but see, on mine, well, see, let me go through that again. Okay, you may be right on that, but they moved that.
I am right. You click on it, and then it'll say search, and then automatically a dialog box pops up, and it says search your library.
Okay, hold on a minute. Let me type in John Combest, and it says there's nothing there. You don't exist, so I don't think it's working right. Because I have stuff.
Well, and Brad, also, now I experienced this in the last 72 hours. If you go there and all of your photos haven't indexed, so haven't been, quote unquote, indexed into your phone, then it'll say, mine says, come back, or you'll see more results when photos have been indexed.
Mine says, ask John Combest for advice and he'll tell you what to do, which is sort of weird.
Yeah. So just the other day, Brad, and I don't mean to belabor this, but just the other day I was looking for a few pictures because I tweet out a link to my website every morning. And I got that error message, and I looked for a term that I knew was in there, and it said, more results will be available when photos have finished indexing. So, Brad, if you have 11 zillion photos, maybe your phone hasn't indexed all of them yet.
Could be. That's why I can't find stuff. Okay.
Yeah, that could be it. Okay.
Something we haven't talked about for a couple of days, the Cracker Barrel thing. Have you heard now that they're doing a 100% retreat? They're not going to modify all the existing restaurants. Have you heard this story?
No. So they changed them. Not only did they revert to the original logo, but they're not going to change the restaurant.
Yes, they're going to keep them the way they are.
Wow, okay.
They've done 4 upgrades, only 4 of like 660 stores or something like that, and they're not going to do any more. And the rumor is they're going to change back the 4 they've changed to the original style. I mean, is this the ultimate new Coke deal or what? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah, it seems like it. Now, you and I didn't discuss this element on the show, but a friend of mine pointed out to me that it's pretty common now for McDonald's and other places to just have a generic setup, because if the franchisee goes out of business, then you don't want something that looks like a Pizza Hut and you're trying to sell it to a Hardee's. So you just want to have a generic version of a building. And then if the franchisee turns out to be a fraud and goes away, then the McDonald's Corporation could sell that location to Burger King, and Burger King wouldn't have to change it to the QSR model. You get what I'm saying?
Well, the interesting part of that is I have a friend of mine that used to be in commercial real estate, and he used to handle a lot of kind of transactions like this. And he had what he called his de-identification crew. You know who these guys were?
They would. I'm guessing based on context clues, they would go in and take away any kind of identifying material.
Right, and not only that, they would go in and they would do their best to try to de-identify the building, like as a Wendy's or whatever it was, and they would change the paint scheme, whatever. Like if it was,
take the Wendy's colors out.
Right, and paint it some other weird color, and they would actually do some minor architectural modifications to the building to make it not look like the other existing restaurants, wherever it was. And I always thought that was sort of interesting. And he said what the deal was that these guys would do it in a day, and that was the deal. He would call them and say when a company went under and they're gonna they're gonna sell the location and they're no longer gonna have it as Wendy's, whatever. He would call them and they say, okay, tomorrow you have to have this done. So they'd get up get there early in the morning, work all day long, change things around, paint things different colors, move things over, obviously take down all the signage and stuff like that. And then they'd walk away and you go, what was there yesterday? I can't remember, that kind of a thing.
But can you ever really get rid of the stench of a biggie bag?
John, the biggie bags are wonderful. I had one yesterday. What's wrong with the biggie bag, John?
I don't know. I have to agree with you because for a while I used to think it's bad for you. And then I heard an AI chick on a radio commercial that said, real talk, I'm not giving up my Taco Bell. And then she was promoting fastfoodmediet.com, where you can go and you can learn how Brad Hildebrand has actually lost weight many times using a fast food diet. And you know what I call that, Brad? Real talk.
John, see, once again, I told you the story. Once again, you're going to say, what
Once again,
what do you call
Deedum
this?
Tots.
Pafita pots is what it is? What do you call it?
Yeah, we can call it that. Yeah, and Brad, once again, you tell people that story. They say, no way, that can't be true.
I get that all the time.
No way, that can't be true.
The other morning, it was last week, as we got off the air, and Armstrong and Getty come on the air after us at 8 o'clock, between 8 and noon, they were both laughing about the fact that some big scientific organization came out and essentially said, weight loss is nothing but calories in, calories out. And they had 2 sentences from this report that essentially says everything I say all the time. And my example is, and I know this is corny, you're going to go, oh, here he goes again. If you go to the gas station and you top off your tank, and you to the point where you're not supposed to top it up, you get to the point where you can't squeeze another drop in that tank, and you drive around the block and you try to put 5 more gallons in your tank, guess what? It won't hold it because your fuel tank has a fixed volume. It doesn't change, but your stomach does. Your stomach expands and contracts.
Yeah.
So the idea being is, in order for you to put in 4 more gallons in your car, you have to burn off those 4 gallons, okay? Transfer that into the human domain, and if you eat 4,000 calories and you only burn off 3,000 calories in a day, you're going to gain weight. If you do that every single day, every day, you're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's a concept of calorie surplus versus calorie deficit.
That's exactly what it is. Now, all these crazy weird diets and the new shots, the Ozempic and stuff like that, what that's doing is, and this is somewhat problematic to me, what that's doing is it's changing the way your body works.
Yeah, it affects your thyroid, Brad.
Right.
That's serious stuff.
Yes. And it's to the point where it's like, I don't think I want to do that.
But it's easier than exercise, and it's easier than choosing food wisely.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that up because on September 27th, you talked about topping off the tank. I went to Pollinator Palooza, and a chick said to me, do you have enough to fill my tank? And I said, I don't know, how big is your tank? And she said, I'll squeeze every last drop out of you. She said, can you please top it off? And I said, whoa, that's not good for the environment. So, I don't know. Then I spilled some prairie grass seed and called it a day.
There you go. Okay. I have a text that I just looked at. Can I read you the text, John?
Yeah, please do.
First off, this is an educator that sent me this, and interesting because of the fact that normally they are very precise in their language. I will read it word for word. It says, Shane in you. Shane in you. And if you don't believe me, John, I will send you a copy
Okay,
of
she
this.
was probably in a hurry. She might be driving. What does she have to say, Brad?
I listened to both you and John's top three this day. You spoke about Charlie Kirk, but didn't mention the school shooting, which is in Colorado. Do you know about that?
Oh, yeah. That was a big liberal talking point yesterday, Brad. Why are we talking about Charlie Kirk and we're not talking about a school shooting?
Well, the sad part of this is that, let's be honest, and this is a very callous thing for me to say. This is Brad, the media guy. We have a myopic view of the news. And when we have a big monster story, everything else gets shoved to the background. Correct, John? Wouldn't that?
Yeah, that's true.
And when you have the killing of the assassination, murder of Charlie Kirk, who is a very influential person. Matter of fact, Eric Trump came out last night and said that if it wasn't for Charlie Kirk, Kamala Harris would be president right now. He said that he so firmly believes in the fact that Charlie Kirk, with his involvement at the university level, the young person level, turned around a lot of these young people, college, high school people. And
that it was the big deal. So let's get back to our listener's point, Brad. You're saying that when you have the assassination of a high-level public figure, it will generally overshadow anything else happening in the news.
Right.
And I think your listener, Brad, would probably know that somewhere in St. Louis City, a black guy killed a black guy within the last week, and we didn't hear much about it. And it wasn't a school shooting level media coverage, and it wasn't a Charlie Kirk level media coverage, because it happens often. So I guess her point is, and Brad, if you went to social media posts, I'll use Eric Schmidt as an example. Eric Schmidt offering the condolences to Charlie Kirk's wife and children. The comment section was littered with angry liberals saying, that's nice. Where's your commentary about the school shooting? So this was a common liberal talking point yesterday, Brad.
The sad part of this is I probably know a little bit more about this than the average bird because of the fact that a friend of mine called me last night who has a good friend of hers who lives a mile away from the high school. And to the point where, as this person was giving this third hand, this is her friend who called and told her this, that this is, and if you know this area, this is essentially, I think the school was in, if I'm not mistaken, in Evergreen. And if you know that area, when you head west on 70, Denver, a lot of people, this is misconception. And I had it as well, too, the first time I was in Denver. Everybody says.
But when you drive out there, what do you see, Brad?
Well, when you're in Denver, it's as flat as a board for the most part, okay? Because it's still part of the plains right before you get to the Rockies. And as you go on I-70, if you leave, and this is Brad's little nerd kind of stuff, if you leave Kansas City and I-70, you're at like 550 feet above sea level. When you get to Denver and you still drive across Kansas and as flat as a board, and all of a sudden you're in Colorado at the Colorado border, I believe the elevation is like 4,900 feet. You don't realize that from Kansas City to Denver, you're constantly going uphill. But once
it's a very slow and a very slight incline. Yeah.
Right. But once you get to Denver, you're still pretty much on the plains there. But when you go immediately west of Denver, you start to climb into the Rockies, and that's where Evergreen, matter of fact, that's where the Coors Brewery and places like that are. Okay. Long story made short, this friend of my friend said that her girlfriend was looking out over her deck, and she can see this high school from the deck, and it was crazy time to the point where traffic was jammed and to the point where she gave me an in-depth report on this because of the fact that the students were they locked down the high school, and the students were stuck in the high school for hours because they weren't exactly sure if they got the shooter. And the story is this morning that one of the shooters shot himself, or actually the shooter shot himself, but he still lived. So they weren't sure who the shooter was. They thought the shooter was still on the loose when one of the three people shot was actually the shooter. Probably it sounds like a self-inflicted gunshot, but they did not die. And they died late last night, early this morning. So my school teacher friend who said, Shane in you.
Shane in you. Brad, do you have a boyfriend named Shane, and is he in you?
I'm not going to touch that.
Well, I mean, that's good feedback from your friend, Brad, because that was probably the primary, other than some folks, rare folks, saying that Charlie Kirk brought this on himself. A main liberal talking point was, where are all the thoughts and prayers about the school shooting?
John, the sad part of this is that, and I hate to say this, school shootings have got to be somewhat commonplace. I know that's a horrible thing to say, but let's be honest, it's the truth, right?
Yeah, it's not completely out of the ordinary. And I think your progressive friend would say the answer to that is more regulation. Now, Brad, without revealing any details here, why does your progressive friend, does she listen to your show out of because she likes to hear your opinions? Does she hate listen to you because she actually dislikes you and she wants to criticize you? Why does she listen to the show?
I don't know, John. I mean,
is there something, and if it's something a little bit deeper, like if you guys have like a strong connection for whatever reason, like we could table that. But like, it surprises me because you and I are generally pretty conservative. And I think that for you and I'm not sure why she would, unless she wanted to be agitated by Brad. I don't know why she would listen to our show.
John, can I tell you something that hit me yesterday? I'm going to tell you something. And honest to God, I was driving along and I was listening to the Charlie Kirk stuff when the whole thing happened. I was out driving around when the whole thing hit. And I sat in my car for a while and I got back to the office and listened. And I thought to myself, and I know, John, you're going to laugh when I say this. I thought to myself, I'm so sick and tired of, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm progressive, you're not, you're a conservative, you want to kill babies, I don't, because I'm a Republican, and God would not want to kill babies in the womb, and yada, 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 yada. And I got so sick, and the Tracy Ellis thing, you're a rhino, no, I'm not a rhino. And I thought to myself, you know what, and I swear, this happened to me yesterday. I said to myself, I am no longer going to play these stupid little games. I am going to say, when someone says to me, what are your political beliefs? You know what I'm going to answer?
What are you going to say?
I'm an American.
Oh, wow. So that's a symbolic step. So you're choosing your own action there because you're not going to take part in. Now, you know, Brad, that the big wheel of partisan politics will keep moving, and you're just one tiny minuscule spoke in that, as well as everybody else's one tiny minuscule spoke. And you're just saying you're not going to be a spoke going the same way in that wheel. The wheel's going to keep turning, and your symbolic gesture will mean nothing, but at least you'll feel better about it, right?
I get it, but it disarms an argument. If someone says, and here's my exact follow-up.
It makes other people think, oh, he's weak and doesn't want to take a stand.
No, it makes to the point where my follow-up question is, are you an American? And if their question is, well, then I go, well, I guess you're not. And so I'm an American. I'm proud to be an American.
That's a checkmate, Brad. You put them in check.
Right. I'm proud to be an American. But I'm a conservative American. And it's the whole thing like I'm a African American. Okay, look. I'm an American. You know, my grandfather on my father's side. Did
he come here, Brad? And let me ask you a question. Was he a legal immigrant?
No,
or an illegal immigrant, Brad?
He was German, but he was an illegal immigrant from Russia, which, if you know the whole Catherine the Great story, there's
At
a whole story
8:01,
behind
all
that.
I have to say is Shane in you, Brad. Shane in you.
Boy,
Doesn't that sound like the name of an inappropriate adult movie?
We've had some real listener feedback today. We got Jim Rogers, who sent me...
that's not his name, but try again.
Jim Roberts, excuse me, who sent me the Missourian article. John talked about how wonderful the Missourian open house was. If I would have gone there, they would have called the Washington police on me. They would have
they don't know who you are. Go ahead.
Out. And then I get chastised for not talking about the school shooting in Colorado. God, you know what, John? You know what? What are you
going to do, Brad?
You know what I'm proud to say?
What's that?
I am an American.
You're a real American. That's what Hulk Hogan would say. Brad, I can't wait to chat with you on Friday tomorrow.
We're out of here.